Walt Disney.
Yes.
Beloved figure of our pop culture.
That's how they get you. Yada, yada, yada. She eventually causes her own husband to be burned to death.
And that makes me so happy on cold nights. It especially ended badly for the idiot Peckerwoods.
Have a bottle of scotch. Okay, that's twice that he's mentioned redheads. It is un-American to get in the way of our freedom to restrict people's freedoms. That was the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know plenty about these things.
But
I love me some Bobby Drake. Yeah, well, if that's all we've got, then we're being really lazy.
Yeah. Y'all bone.
You can literally poke a hole in it as soon as someone gets pneumonia. Well, I'm not as old as you.
Well, haha, motherfucker, I got a wizard.
History of Time,
where we connect nerdery to the real world. My name is Ed Blaylock. I'm a world history teacher currently via distance here in Northern California. Still trying to figure out what to do with one random section of English in the middle of all that. And just recently my son has decided that dragons can be found in various parts of our apartment complex parking lot, which is awesome because it takes me to my happy place when he wants to go chase them. On the other hand, when I'm trying to get him in the car to go to daycare in the morning, it can be a little bit problematic.
Can you guys hunt dragons on the way? Because I used to turn the my minivan is called the Millennium Falcon, and if I open up the sunroof, that's the dorsal cannon. And my son will, and I will just turn on the soundtrack, and we fought so many TIE fighters on the way for so long. So just an idea. Turn your car.
Gonna give that a try.
Turn it into like a seat, like a cool thing. Like, oh, did you get that dragon? Because there's dragons down the street, and we need to fight in our dragon wagon. Kids go crazy.
I like that. Nice.
Kids go crazy for rhymes. So
okay.
I'm Damian Harmony. I give out unsolicited advice. I'm
all the time.
Yes, true. I do it professionally as a teacher and as a stand-up comic. So it's what we do.
It kind of
yeah, it really is. I have one friend who's a comic. His name is Keith Lowell Jensen, and he doesn't know I'm plugging him on here. But he says that he writes autobiographical fan fiction.
That's perfect.
It's so good. But yes, I am a stand-up comic. I'm also a Latin teacher with one rogue section of world history. Trying to do this distance learning. AP tests have come up, so kids have completely fallen away because I'm a high school teacher. And it's a whole mess. I've put all the lessons online. I'm hoping they're doing them. Some of them send stuff back. I have literally one student from my world history class who's still in contact. I think all the rest have given up. They might never know how World War I ended. And, that's the sad irony, but
any of us really know though?
No.
I mean,
I had a joke on World War I.
On an existential level. Oh yeah, no, that you're never going to get to tell. Yeah, no, I'm in this place where, like, I had such plans this year for the Reformation, and like, there's not even any chance I'm going to get to it online.
No.
Like I'm going to get 1 week of talking about Japan, which
is not enough.
Okay. So those of you who are tuning into the podcast for the first time, this is going to be news. Everybody else is going to be like, well, yeah, okay, right.
We know.
This is it. But the secondary area of specialty for my history degree was East Asia, focusing primarily on Japan, with China being in there. And that's because I was exposed to samurai movies at too young an age, and it warped my brain. And so, like, I could spend a semester talking about the Sengoku Jidai and the Heian period before it, and the Muromachi period. And,
was the Heian period when they were ruled by an outcast?
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
The timestamp is 4 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You're getting.
I realized why I
We
stopped
gotta.
punning for our show, and it's because
Why?
right before this, I do a digital pun tournament show on
Yeah, this is true.
twitch.tv/capital puns. So I'm like all punned out, but tonight I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good.
Yeah.
And you even had a Japan round on the show
We
tonight.
did. We did.
So,
That was so
you
fun.
know, so you were already kind of locked and loaded for that one.
Oh, yeah.
But I could spend a semester talking about this,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to cram all of Japanese history up to the Heian period into like an afternoon. And then
Wow.
I get to spend 2 or 3 days talking about Heian Kyo and Japanese, cultural development during that period.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to spend a day taking everything from the Heian period to the Tokugawa shogunate, which is, call it 400 years
Right.
of internecine warfare, the rise and fall of daimyo, like
Mm-hmm.
as a thing. And like one of the most pivotal periods of Japanese history, to the development of modern Japan's kind of character.
Right.
Has to get kind of, spoken in a couple of sentences as well. There was this period of civil war when lords fought against lords. Okay, there's so much more to that than that, but here
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah.
And so normally I wind up spending like 2 weeks on Japan,
Nice.
and I weep every year
Because that's too
because
short.
it's way too short.
Yeah.
And so now I'm going to get one. And then I'm going to have to pick whether it's going to be the scientific revolution, the Reformation, or pre-Columbian America
May I
for the
give you
last like week or 2 weeks. And
may
I'm leaning hard in the direction of pre-Columbian America.
good. And let
Because
me tell you why I support that.
okay.
Because we cover the scientific revolution in 10th grade. We cover the Reformation in 10th grade, which I don't get why there's so much more other stuff that's happening. But
do you put Pope Leo on trial in the 10th grade?
no.
Because you
It's
should.
well,
But
yeah.
I
But
mean, I
no,
try to every
we
now
don't. But it's there's a lot of focus on the splitting of the Christian church and then the counter Reformation and all that kind of stuff, and then Cardinal Richelieu and all that kind of stuff as it pertains toward the French Revolution. I mean, that's where it's really done.
Yeah,
But pre-Columbian South America doesn't get touched until we get to. It doesn't get touched because we don't get to South America in the 10th grade until we get to the post-Napoleonic time. So,
yeah, I was going to say. So
yeah.
that's yeah.
It's really just a
Gonna
tour
be
of Western
Bolivar.
Civ and all these places that the Europeans beat up. So
Yeah, well, pretty much.
But we've
Yeah.
relaxed on our content standards somewhat. So again, hit them with that stuff so that they can, because you've got kids who are presumably from Central and South American heritage. They'll get to learn about something that they can actually literally relate to. So geographically, it works better too.
And if they go into the 8th grade understanding that before Europeans showed up, Native American societies were literally 10 times as large
Yes.
as they were by the time the Pilgrims showed up.
Yeah.
Like Tenochtitlan,
Tenochtitlan. Yeah.
Had a population comparable to Rome.
Yes.
In the Republican period, and had aqueducts feeding it, had a sophisticated system of fields and agriculture and everything to feed everybody living there. I mean, it was this incredibly cosmopolitan place, and it was all built without iron tools.
Yeah.
Like they accomplished an awful lot of what the Romans accomplished. Not everything the Romans accomplished, but they accomplished darn near all of it.
Right.
And they did it with stone fucking tools.
Yeah.
And to the Europeans who showed up at that time, it was like, well, look at these barbarians. They don't even have metal. It's like they don't have metal, and they built all that.
Yeah. Apparently, they don't need the metal.
Like,
So
apparently, they don't need it.
yeah. So yeah,
So
my
anyway,
kids won't know
yeah.
how World War One ended ever, because I assume that they'll never learn it ever. Uh, and your kids are going to not know that the church had a Reformation ever. So
Well, okay, no, the
that's
church, no,
distance learning.
yeah, well, the church didn't have a Reformation. Christianity had a
Well, yeah,
Reformation that led to a whole bunch of churches. But
yeah.
I'm nitpicking.
I was thinking about the Counter Reformation, but
Oh well,
yeah.
yeah,
So the rubber band snapping back.
yeah, pretty much.
So
All right, so now that we've spent all of this time segueing into all of that,
sure.
we were having a conversation earlier today,
Mm-hmm.
in which you mentioned a couple of political figures
Uh-huh.
from the 80s and 1990s,
Yes.
and I know that we're going to be tying that in with your absolute favorite medium
Yes.
of nerdery.
Yes.
And so I'm going to ask you to start right now. And I don't
Okay.
know if this is how your notes are all formulated, but I want to hear what is the thesis statement for what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Well, the thesis is actually in the title. It's like an 1800s book. The NWO storyline in WCW was a reflection of the South's hatred of Bill Clinton.
Fuck yes. I am here for it. Okay.
All right.
Now, but,
Yeah.
but hold on. Uncle Billy was an avuncular, jovial, good old boy, wasn't he?
He was. The problem with it was, well, you'll see it come out, but
Okay.
there were a few things that happened in the early 90s that set the tone for the election in 96, which then set the tone for the NWO storyline. What I'm talking about with the NWO storyline is a very small slice, but a very loud slice of wrestling's history. If I mention the name Stone Cold Steve Austin to you, you'd recognize that, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
There you go. Nicely
Yeah.
done.
Can I get a hell yeah?
Oh, hell yeah.
And here's the thing. Part of
mhm.
the reason I remember that quote
Mm-hmm.
has less to do with Steve Austin
Mm-hmm.
and has more to do with Farscape.
Okay.
Because John Crichton,
Mhm.
in a memorable moment, wrestling with the demons inside his own head,
Mm-hmm.
both metaphysically and on screen, literally, winds up throwing one of them into a dumpster and then shouting, "Can I get a hell yeah?" And so yeah,
Yeah.
and
No,
that became a tagline within the fandom too,
all right.
which was taken directly from.
Oh yeah, yeah. And if I said what's your name and then you told me and I said it doesn't matter what your name is.
Doesn't matter what your name
Right.
is.
So
Well, yeah.
all
'cause-
that as memorable as it is only happened in about a 3-year period.
Wow.
Yeah, the amount of memory people have, and to give you some idea, a 3-year period is less than the total reign of Hulk Hogan's first shot at being champion. Like,
Really?
yeah.
He held the belt longer than that?
Oh yeah, he did. He held the belt. Hulkamania happened in '84, and he held it until 87. He wrestled Andre, and then they had the thing, and that was in the summer, so to 87. Yeah, so he had the belt. For 4 years, almost exactly. I could probably find out precisely.
Wow.
But yeah,
Right.
and then he held it again for another year, a little while after that. But my point is that more that this period of time that we know about from wrestling, it fits within a context that's only, honestly, only from 96 to 99. I mean, it really is. So it burned so white hot that. Yeah.
That was that long ago?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, like the
Wow.
mullets were still a thing. So So in May of 1996, I'm going to start there, but I'm going to come back. Okay. In May of 1996, Vince McMahon and two different wrestlers could not come to terms on a contract renewal. Okay. So Scott Hall, do you know that name at all?
I recognize it from other stuff we've talked about.
Okay. So Scott Hall was a pro wrestler who had been an upper mid-card guy in the AWA. The AWA was a Minneapolis-based wrestling alliance. It was one of the first offshoots of the NWA that really made it big. It was Vern Gagne's wrestling federation, and he had... It was a star factory. Like, he made amazing stars come out of there, but very often he would, I don't want to say he held them down, but he had this kind of traditional way of doing things. And as wrestling was exploding, his territory kept getting raided by McMahon. So Scott Hall had been an upper mid-card guy in the AWA as Big Scott Hall. And he floundered elsewhere and finally found a character that worked for him in the 1990s. You might know this name, Razor Ramon.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That was Scott Hall. He was not, in fact, Cuban. He was essentially a Tony Montana ripoff. He wrestled in the main event many a time. He held the Intercontinental belt, which is the second highest belt in the WWF at the time. And I'll be talking about the WWF mostly because that's what it was at the time. Yeah. But he held the Intercontinental belt a few times. He was known as an excellent worker, and a worker is somebody who can make their opponent look really, really good. So he was good at doing that, and yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what was his reputation as a shooter?
Didn't have one.
Okay.
Yeah, he by this point, shooters are pretty much gone. If you're a shooter, you're probably going to be in the Southern wrestling leagues, and you're going over to Japan a lot. At this point, it's been cartoonized so much.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you're only going to be shooting when you're trying to make a real fight look fake.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So he made people look really good. He told a really good story. I never liked his character, but I loved his work. He never got the championship. Possibly because he had what's known in wrestling as the curse of the good worker. He didn't need the belt to be compelling. This also is true about a few other wrestlers, but essentially if you're really, really good, then they're going to put you wherever because they need you there.
He was the Dan Aykroyd of the WWF. He was a utility man.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good way to put it. Or the Phil Hartman. For later generations. He had been contacted by the rival company at the time, WCW, because his contract was up. What?
Oh, I'm just remembering, two rich guys having a dick waving contest from our exhaustive survey of this before. But keep going.
Oh yeah. And WCW offered him a decent amount of money. And they offered him half the days that the WWF was requiring to make that same money. So if you're wrestling 320 days a year, that's a lot of wear and tear on your body. And you're all that travel and all the havoc that wreaks on your family. So if you get offered to do the same amount of money for literally half the days, 160 days, you're going to take it. And it was a guaranteed contract, which the WWF did not do at the time. The only guarantee they had was they guaranteed you $150 a night for 10 nights a year. That was the guarantee. Anything you made over that was because you worked for it. It was like, kind of like you get a minimum and then you get commission.
Really?
Yeah, and it was all discretionary. Now, you worked really hard and you brought people in and you got a slice of that pie based on where you were on the card. But it was discretionary. So
wow.
Yeah. And Vince McMahon did not have the money to be able to give people guaranteed contracts in the mid-90s. Now, in the mid-90s, he'd almost gone bankrupt, as had a whole bunch of other things that I loved a lot, including Marvel Comics. I still am thinking about doing an episode of why a bunch of different things almost went bankrupt in the middle of a really good economic upturn. But Vince McMahon did not want to match the contract, and Scott went to him and said, if you match it, I'll stay because I want to stay. You've done great things for me. You've done great things with my character. I've made a lot of money with you. And Vince said, if I match your contract, if I give you a guaranteed contract, I have to give guaranteed contracts to a bunch of other guys that are above you, and I can't afford to do that. And so McMahon didn't match it.
So what you're saying is that Ted Turner literally bought talent out from under the WWF because he had the fuck you money to do it.
Yeah, he did. And that was the one thing that WCW had that the WWF didn't. WWF had, it's so weird because it was Ted Turner ran a media empire. You would think their production values of their shows would have been much better, but they weren't. WWF was just a wrestling company. Ted Turner's thing was a TV company that had wrestling on it. And the WWF had so much better production and so much better everything for any number of reasons. But ultimately, McMahon couldn't match Scott Hall's offer. Now, the other wrestler in our story, whose contract was up 1 week later, was a man named Kevin Nash.
Okay.
He'd been on the lower to middle of the card in most of the promotions he'd been in. Okay. He was about 7 feet tall. He looked amazing, and he was incredibly smart. I mean, he is an incredibly well-spoken, smart fellow. But he could not catch a break. He was one of the Master Blasters known as Steel. That name ring a bell? It shouldn't.
Vaguely.
Yeah. He was Vinny Vegas. He was Oz.
Nope.
I encourage you after the show to look up Oz. It's a ridiculous gimmick. When he came to the WWF, he came in as Shawn Michaels' bodyguard, Diesel.
Oh, okay.
And he got pushed to the moon because Vince McMahon likes big champions. He, within a year of being in the WWF, he was the champion, and he was one of the longest reigning champions in the 1990s. He also went to Vince McMahon, asking him to match the offer from WCW for guaranteed money because he really wanted to stay. He told Vince flat out, nobody has done with me what you've been able to do. I want to stay. And Vince said, I can't match guaranteed contracts. I just can't. It's bad business for me.
So okay. with the reputation that McMahon has earned.
Yes.
I'm not going to say gotten because I think there is an aspect of earned involved.
Oh yeah.
As being, just a giant douchebag.
Yes.
I find it really amazing that this is actually a circumstance where he wasn't actually fucking anybody over. Yeah, this was seriously. I want like he's not an idiot. I'm sure he wanted to keep these guys.
Yeah, he did.
And no, and Turner was literally showing up just like,
here's a bunch of money. Yeah.
I'm miming counting bills, in my hand. Hubba hubba hubba, money money money. Who do you trust? A la Jack Nicholson. Like,
right.
There was just no way for him to compete with that. And I think it's worth kind of pointing that up because everybody knows now because the WWE is a cultural juggernaut. You say the word Vince McMahon, you say the name Vince McMahon, everybody goes, "Oh, that guy's a prick."
Yeah.
But nowadays, if you say the name Ted Turner, like people younger than you and me
don't
are going to be like, "Who's that?"
Oh yeah.
He was the founder of CNN, TNT,
TBS.
TBS,
he owned the Braves.
WCW.
I think he had a stock in the Hawks. And
he did.
Yeah, and
he did.
I don't think he owned the Falcons, but he owned the TV rights to basically all Atlanta sports.
Yeah,
he was amazing. Yeah.
I mean, he was the Donald Trump of media airwaves in the very early 90s. He was the name everybody knew, and he also wound up earning a reputation as being a gigantic douchebag.
Yeah, well, turns out money does that to you.
Well, yeah, money tends to do that to you. And I think in Ted's case, he was always, a rich boy to begin with.
Oh yeah.
So, but but he doesn't have the level of name recognition nowadays
True.
that Vince McMahon does. And so I kind of want to make the point for nerds listening who are younger than you and me
Mm-hmm.
that, like, no, there were in fact people who were bigger dick bags than Vince McMahon.
Yeah, and Vince is an interesting case because he contains multitudes. I mean, he, on the one hand, yes, he ran an incredibly exploitative carnival. On the other hand, you've heard of Mr. Fuji, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Fuji was this guy who'd wrestled since the 50s, and he was a manager in the 80s and 90s, and then he kind of went away because managers went away. One day, a wrestler came back to Vince and told him, hey, I just went to the movies before the show, and you know who was tearing tickets was Mr. Fuji. And Vince handed the wrestler $10,000 in a bag and said, go give that to him. Like, when a guy has that much discretionary income, he's been a dick to do it, and he still is a dick in a lot of ways, but he does contain this, like, very generous heart at the same way. And I'm not a Vince McMahon stan, but at the same like, he contains multitudes, and he genuinely wanted these guys to make the money that they thought that they should make, and he just knew that he wouldn't be able to do it. He also, I think, knew that these guys were a little bit older and that they were on the way down. Like, they were burning pretty hot, but they were on their way down, and he needed to build new stars anyway. So there's a few things going on, but ultimately the WWF could not match these contracts. So both men go to WCW, and they had guaranteed contracts, and they had something called favored nation status. So when you get to WCW, there is a term for getting the most pay that you can get, and it's really kind of a tiered system. If you're making Sting money, because Sting was kind of the hot item there, that means you're making the top tier of money. And it was like $750,000 a year kind of money. Yeah.
All right.
And so when they get there, Scott Hall has favored nation status, and he tells Kevin Nash, hey, when you show up, negotiate for more money because you were the champion, so you should be able to draw more money than they're offering to pay you. Talk them up. And Kevin Nash said, all right, cool. Well, what Scott Hall knew was that because he had this thing called the favored nation clause, and what that is anytime somebody comes in who's newer than you, if they come in at more money, you get a raise to match them.
A Me Too clause.
Yeah. And so both of them had a Me Too clause for each other. And they're coming in at the most. It's just so clever. And so they got raises to match each other. And so, WCW is going to do a big thing with them. Now, WCW at this point is rating talent. They're not building their own within, really. And so it's the end of May 1996. Scott Hall shows up on WCW television with very vague threats. He shows up at the end of a show and he says, you know who I am. You don't know why I'm here. And he's still talking with the pseudo-Cuban accent. But he's wearing a little bit of gold, but he's not Razor Ramon, but he's looking very similar. There's a whole lawsuit about it. A couple weeks later, Kevin Nash joins him, and they start calling out the company itself, WCW. They didn't challenge specific wrestlers exactly, except for Sting. So they start by challenging the company, and then they challenge Sting as kind of the face of the company. And then they challenge the company's executives and its owners. And it's a really different story. Like, normally you come in and you want to pick a fight with that guy. They're like calling out WCW, and they're calling out Eric Bischoff, and they keep challenging Ted Turner and all this. Now, these guys work for it, but this is the storyline that they're doing. Like, they're coming in and challenging the actual federation and its exemplars. They were called the Outsiders, I think by Mean Gene Okerlund first, because they kept coming through the crowd and invading the ring during matches. And sometimes they'd show up with aluminum baseball bats. and they'd smack him on the stairs on the way up. Like, there was a sense of like, what is going on here? Like, they really made it real. They disrupted everything, and they attacked wrestlers on the show. And what they did was they never said outright that they were from the WWF still, but they would imply it until they were asked point blank, and then they said no. And that was to avoid legal trouble because there were a couple of depositions that were happening. Like, WWF was suing WCW for basically stealing their intellectual property. So in June of 96, they appear at something called the Great American Bash. It's one of the big pay-per-views. They bullied the on-air announcer and vice president of WCW named Eric Bischoff into naming his 3 wrestlers who would meet them the next month at the pay-per-view Bash at the Beach. He refused to, so they powerbombed him through a table to make their point. Now, a powerbomb, for those of you that aren't watching, is where you take a wrestler and you put his head through your legs. So your crotch is sitting on the back of his head. And then you grab him by the waist and you flip him up so that his crotch is now in your face and his legs are over your shoulder. So you're wearing him like a feed bag. And then you slam him back first down onto the mat from your shoulders. So it's a devastating maneuver, and they did it to him through a table. The next night on Monday Nitro, and this is like, wow, these guys haven't had a match yet. And they're just disrupting everything, and they're bringing this hitherto unseen violence.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next night on Monday Nitro, which is their weekly Monday night show, Eric Bischoff had a draft, and he drafted Lex Luger, Macho Man Randy Savage, and Sting to represent the WCW against the Outsiders. Now, Hulk Hogan was away with an injury. That's why he wasn't a part of this. All 3 of those guys started painting their faces to show how much on the same team they were, because Sting always wore face paint.
Yeah. Okay. Pause real quick. So at this point, Hulk Hogan was already with WCW.
Mm-hmm. He had been for 2 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And the Giant is the champion. He's now known as the Big Show. The Giant is the champion, having beaten Hulk Hogan, and Hogan took some time off to take care of probably a hip injury. He's usually got those.
Okay.
They all start painting their faces. Like I said, the lines are drawn. The Outsiders had a third mystery partner, and they would and they said, we'll bring him to the show. You just bring these 3 goofs, and we'll do it. And they're going to take on the legendary Macho Man Savage, as well as WCW stalwarts Lex Luger and Sting. And Lex had just come back from the WWF a couple years earlier, or about a year earlier, and he was getting a pretty good push. The Outsiders refused to name their partner, and they came out to the match at Bash in the Beach in July of 1996. Just the 2 of them. Okay, and this is the first wrestling match that they're a part of. And during the beginning of the match, Lex Luger gets kayfabe injured and stretchered out. Now, kayfabe means this is the storyline that's going on. So he basically gets Stinger Splash. Sting does this move where if you're in the corner, he'll go and he'll jump on you. It's called a Stinger Splash. It's devastating. Well, it hit Lex as well as Scott Hall. And anytime there's action in the ring, Scott Hall is taking all the bumps because Kevin Nash kind of sucks as a worker. He does. He has 4 moves. He's a big man. He had 20 knee surgeries before he even started wrestling. He's, it's not necessarily his fault, but that just goes to show how good of a worker he was, that he wasn't a good worker. Yet he's central to a lot of the ring action. But yeah, Lex Luger gets stretchered out, and now it's a 2-on-2 match. And eventually the situation becomes dire for WCW's representatives, Sting and Randy Savage. And Sting is outside with Scott Hall, if I recall correctly, and Randy Savage has just been, I think, powerbombed. It's been a while since I've watched the match. Hulk Hogan comes out to save everyone. Thunderous applause, huge pop, which was good because he was starting to get kind of more of a tepid response. The cavalry was here. The Outsiders immediately fled the ring. And then America's Hero dropped a leg bomb, or did the atomic leg drop on Randy Savage multiple times. he turned bad guy right then and there. Savage and Sting retreat. Hogan is there standing with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash in the ring, and the audience is so mad at him they're throwing garbage into the ring. It's a very southern.
Wow.
Oh yeah. This is where you can tell it's a southern company because they are throwing stuff. Not that New York wasn't brutal in the 70s. They were. They threw like glasses of acid at people and stabbed them. Yeah, that happened in the 50s.
The fuck?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. If you were a heel, your tires would get slashed. Like all kinds of horrible shit.
Wow.
People thought it was real. So then Mean Gene Okerlund comes in, and here's what they say. Okay, so I'm quoting from exactly what happened from the aftermath. Mean Gene, I have been with you for so many years. For you to join up with the likes of these two men absolutely makes me sick to my stomach. And I think that these people here, and he points to the crowd, and a lot of other people around the world would have had just about enough of this man, pointing at Kevin Nash, and this man, pointing at Scott Hall. And you want to put yourself in this group? You've got to be kidding me. And Hogan, well, the first thing you got to realize, brother, is that right here is the future of wrestling. You can call this the New World Order of Wrestling, brother. I just want to let that set in. That was a improvised line.
Really?
It was. As far as I've been able to tell, he improv that line. But it took off. Okerlund, pointing to all the debris on the mat, says, look at all of this crap in the ring. This is what the future for you. This is what is in the future for you if you want to hang around with the likes of this man Hall and this man Nash. Hulk Hogan. As far as I'm concerned, all this crap in the ring represents these fans out here. For 2 years, brother, for 2 years I held my head high. I did everything for the charities. I did everything for the kids. And the reception I got when I came out here, you fans can stick it, brother. Because if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, you people wouldn't be here. And if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff would still be selling meat from a truck in Minneapolis. And if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, all these Johnny-come-latelys that you see out here wrestling wouldn't be here. I was selling out the world, brother, when they were bumming gas to put in their car to get to high school. So the way it is now, brother, with Hulk Hogan and the New World Organization of Wrestling, brother, and me and the new blood by my side, what you gonna do, brother, when the New World Organization runs wild on you? See, that's why I'm saying that New World Order was just a line that he tossed out, and then he was like trying to pick it back up, and he was, yeah. So that's the beginning of the NWO, and from that point forward, the NWO, the New World Order of Wrestling, would attack people with bats. They would entirely disrupt the wrestling shows, and they would threaten wrestlers. And Hogan then challenged the Giant for the title at a pay-per-view called Hog Wild, which was a biker rally up in Sturgis that they gave away for free. Like they didn't charge a gate at all, but it was all pay-per-view, it was TV money. It was a weird thing. At Hog Wild.
And presumably, since it was at Sturgis, the crowd was made up of bikers.
Oh yeah. And that's
which matches up real well with NWO's whole
their aesthetic. Yeah.
And yeah.
So the Outsiders wrestle and they defeat Sting and Lex Luger. So there's a return match. Hogan defeats the Giant, winning the championship. His longtime friend, the Booty Man. You might know the Booty Man as the Zodiac or the Butcher. No? How about Brutus the Barber Beefcake? After he stopped being Brutus the Barber Beefcake and he went to WCW, he was the Booty Man. Well, actually, he started as the Butcher, and then he was the Zodiac, and then he was the Booty Man. But you get the idea. So, yeah.
Okay.
And he was Hulk Hogan's best friend in real life, so Hogan brought him with him. Also, I think he was Hogan's weed guy. So,
and where do you get that from?
Just because of how often Hogan had him with him, and there's just something about it, like, because back then traveling with weed was a bad idea, especially in the South.
Yeah.
So it's not like Hogan didn't partake and the other guys didn't partake. So yeah, now he comes out wearing an NWO t-shirt, and he seems ready to join the NWO, right? And everybody knows that he's Hulk Hogan's best friend. Hogan pretended that he was going to let him in and then beat him down and spray painted the championship belt with the letters NWO. So now this 10 pounds of gold belt, this belt that has been a tradition in WCW, is now being spray painted with NWO. Like they are throwing all the tradition out the window.
God, the fans must have gone ballistic.
Yeah, it was insane. So yeah, that was yeah, I mean that was the beginning, as you can see, of the NWO. And now they're a faction of very, very powerful bad guys. Here's where it gets interesting. Who came in and ran roughshod over everyone in the WCW. They called all the shots that they wanted. They had the biggest prizes in the organization. The Outsiders would get the tag belts in October at Halloween Havoc. And they added influential wrestlers to their faction. Now, I'm going to take a break from that to ask you, where did you used to get comic books before the shelter in place?
Oh, I haven't actually spent a lot of time at like buying comics, but just down the street, probably my favorite place to go into and maybe pick one up when I would is Empire Comics here in Sacramento.
Yeah, I also like Empire Comics. Now they are still open, but they do all kinds of other things right now for their customers. If you call them at 916-482-8779, you can talk to the owner, Ben, and he will actually put together a package for you and put it out for you to pick up when you are ready. He can do a lot of different things for you at Empire Comics. It's a wonderful, wonderful comic book store, and I can't wait to go back when it is... what am I thinking?
Prudent to do so.
Yeah. When it's safe to do so, I guess would be a term that I would use. And he has given me the permission to plug his comic book store in terms of
his fine establishment.
Yeah. And so he mails comics out to people. He still has gift certificates, and he reads a lot. So if you don't know what you're looking for, he could probably get you close to it. He can do recommendations.
All right.
Also, if you have any gaps in your collections, he is restocking back issues. So if you let him know, he will find the issues that will fill the gaps. And if you have kids, the books are always 20% off for the kids, or kids' books are 20% off. Yeah.
Very cool.
I encourage all of you to go to, you don't go to it anymore, but it's at 1120 Fulton Avenue, and you can call Ben at 916-482-8779.
All right.
So now back to the NWO.
Yes.
By this time, October of 1996.
Yeah.
By the way, it's October of 1996.
Putting a pin in that date.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I'm feeling like that's going to become important.
It might be. Now, by the time these three men are settling into their roles as the top of the heap at WCW, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Hulk Hogan, they have the top championship belts. Okay. A few more things have happened. First, Ted DiBiase. You remember his name?
Yeah. Vaguely.
$1 Million Man.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's Ted DiBiase. So he can't come in as the $1 Million Man because that is a gimmick that got started in WWF. But Ted DiBiase, that's his real name. So he comes in as Billionaire Ted.
Wait, isn't Billionaire Ted the guy who owns this whole operation?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
he joined. Making sure.
Yep. He joined them in August now he's a retired wrestler. He's had too many injuries. But he's a wonderful mouthpiece, and he kind of represents the money behind the throne. So he's there kind of for name recognition. Now, I would point out, again, Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Ted DiBiase, all were made famous by the Northern Company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, no, we went through all of this in the magnum opus of how all of this reflects lost cause
Yes.
ideology.
Yes.
They're all symbolically a bunch of Union. I'm sorry, I mean Northern, Yankee
Aggressionists. Yeah.
aggressionists.
Carpetbaggers.
Prosecuting a war,
Mm-hmm. An unjust war.
of an unjust war of Northern aggression
Yep.
against an order of things, a tradition, a set of traditions, a
Yes.
heritage,
A
if you
heritage.
will,
I will.
focused in and around Atlanta,
Right.
which I just want to say, go Big Willie
Yeah.
in this moment. Just want to say Atlanta
Yeah.
has particularly important meaning in this context.
Yes.
Sherman, Sherman had the right idea. That's
Mm-hmm.
all I'm saying
Yeah.
in regard to that. So, okay,
So
carry
they
on.
also had another member join them in September. He was the first defector from WCW, the Giant, the guy that Hogan had beaten at Hog Wild. The Giant, the only guy bigger than Kevin Nash, has now joined the NWO. Big Show is actually on record for absolutely hating this idea, and he feels like this was their way to neuter him and to make it so that they all had the push and he didn't. But story-wise, it's interesting that now they've got a defector, and now they've got the two top titles, the tag team champions and the champion. They've got the largest wrestler in the federation, probably the second largest as well, with Kevin Nash, and they've got a spokesman. So they've got muscle beyond compare. And the very next week, it appeared as though Sting had joined the NWO and had attacked his longtime friend Lex Luger with the aid of a referee who was in favor of the NWO, Nick Patrick. They even had a referee who was NWO.
Wow.
Yep. Now, this is September, did I say? October. Yeah, it's October because what's coming up is the Fall Brawl. And Fall Brawl is their November pay-per-view. And it's normally, Fall Brawl is called War Games. And it's normally a cage that's stretched over two rings that are stacked next to each other. And you get two factions in there that have just been warring and warring and warring. Well, WCW had its team. Lex Luger, Arn Anderson, and Ric Flair. Arn Anderson and Ric Flair.
Okay,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Ric Flair. By this time, wasn't Ric Flair pretty old?
He's always, to me, he's always been old, but actually he was only in his early 40s.
Really?
He and Hulk Hogan are within a couple years of each other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Somehow
I think he was about my age at this time.
Okay.
Yeah. And Arn Anderson was, I think, 37, but he always looked 40, like forever. Like he was born looking 40. Right. But Arn Anderson, Lex Luger, and Ric Flair. Sting was supposed to join them, but now, because it looks as though Sting had attacked Lex Luger, he no-shows. And so they're like, Sting is okay. So Hogan and Hall and Nash were there for Team NWO, and their fourth member was a surprise. Guess who their fourth member was?
Sting.
Yes. So Team WCW felt betrayed. Until the real Sting showed up and beat up the entire NWO, including the fake Sting.
So who was the fake Sting?
Oh, God, what was his name? Jeff Farmer, I think. A guy who looked a lot like Sting if you put on body paint and you give him the same tights.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
So the real Sting, having beaten up everybody, including fake Sting, then left the WCW, upset that they had not believed him. And fake Sting ended up winning the match for the NWO by beating Lex Luger with real Sting's submission hold.
Okay.
Visually, it works.
Yeah, okay.
So the next night, it's obvious that Sting isn't the traitor, and yet what they had on video was a Sting submitting Lex Luger, who those two were best friends. The real Sting comes out the next night on Nitro, and what's interesting is when you think of wrestling, you always see it from the same angle, right? That hard camera up in the stands looking right.
Yeah.
Sting kept his back deliberately to that camera the whole time. And he had on some new face paint you see coming down, and it's black and white only. Now, interestingly, the NWO's colors were black and white only. So here, and to the point where Hulk Hogan is now wearing black and white. He's not wearing the red and the yellow.
Red and yellow. Yeah.
So here's what Sting had to say. He comes out there and he says, I want a chance to explain something that happened last Monday night at Nitro. Last Monday night, I was on an airplane flying from LA to Atlanta. When I got to Atlanta, I tuned into the TV on Nitro, or I turned in the TV to Nitro, and I thought I was watching a rerun. It was a very convincing film. Often imitated, but never duplicated, though. And what else did I see? I saw people, I saw wrestlers, I saw commentators, and I saw the best friends doubt the Stinger. That's right, doubted the Stinger. So I heard Lex Luger say, I know where he lives, I know where he works out, I'm going to go get him. So I said to myself, well, I'll just go into seclusion. I'll wait and see what happens on Saturday night. And I tuned in Saturday night, and what did I see? More of the same, more doubt, which brings me to Fall Brawl. I knew I had to get to Fall Brawl and face to face with the total package to let him know that it wasn't me. And what I got out of that was, no, Sting, I don't believe you, Sting. And he's yelling at this point. Well, all I got to say is I have been a mediator, I have been babysitter for Lex Luger, and I've given him the benefit of the doubt about 1,000 times in the last 12 months. True, Lex Luger had gone good guy, bad guy, good guy. And I've carried the WCW banner, and I've given my blood, my sweat, and my tears for WCW. So for all those fans out there, and all those wrestlers, and all the people that never doubted the Stinger, I'll stand by you if you stand by me. But for all the people, all of you commentators, all of the wrestlers, and all of the best friends who did doubt me, you can stick it. From now on, I consider myself a free agent. That doesn't mean that you won't see the Stinger from time to time. I'm going to pop in when you least expect it. So that's, September 16th, 1996. So Fall Brawl was September.
Okay.
That same night, so September 16th, 1996. That same night, the NWO added a sixth member, a guy named Six. You might remember him as the 1-2-3 Kid in WWF. No, he's also later known as X-Pac.
No.
Yeah, he's fairly forgettable if you're not a wrestling fan.
Okay.
But he's a friend of Hall and Nash, and he kind of got made famous in WWF as well. In October, they added Vincent. You might remember him as Virgil, which was in WWF. He was Ted DiBiase's manservant, $1 Million Man,
vaguely.
the guy always holding the money.
Yeah.
Now, that's just kind of a fun little story. When he was in WWF, his name was Virgil because the real name of Dusty Rhodes is Virgil Runnels. So they named a character after him. So then when he comes down to WCW, Dusty Rhodes works with WCW, and so they name his character Vince McMahon.
Nice.
So this guy's
That's funny.
entire career is just based on burning each other. So here's the pattern, and we talked about it already. There's all guys from the Northern promotion coming in and taking over this promotion with a sizable defection by one person who'd previously been a monster villain. So he was a bad guy, but he was our bad guy, but now he switched over. The referee kept showing favoritism and became their referee, and that gets us to October when Miss Elizabeth joins the NWO, betraying the Four Horsemen. She'd already betrayed Macho Man Savage to join the Four Horsemen, and now she betrays the Four Horsemen to join the NWO.
Wow.
Yeah. So the NWO has this real renegade kind of feel. They made guerrilla-style commercials that look like they'd hijacked the signal briefly. They sold their merchandise out of a truck outside to the fans. They ran their own wrestling shows briefly in empty arenas. They were trying really hard to make it look like a takeover, with the WCW claiming that Hall, Nash, and Hogan were the only employees there who were WCW employees, and they were only employees because they held the belts.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So getting meta business okay.
Yes. We have to employ them because they have our belts. If someone would beat them, we could fire them. But all these other guys, they're not part of us. So it's just this idea of this Northern takeover, right? Eric Bischoff was the vice president of WCW on the air, and he was also one of their announcers. After Halloween Havoc, so that's October, Roddy Piper had come to WCW, and he wanted a match with Hulk Hogan. You remember Roddy Piper, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So Roddy Piper, also from the North, but he had been Hogan's rival up north, and he comes down and he calls out Hogan again, and he's representing tradition. His promo is very long and windy, and there's a lot of back and forth, so I didn't bother writing it down. But essentially, he wants a match with Hulk Hogan, and he essentially tells Hogan, as big as Hulkamania was, it was because of Roddy Piper, because I was the one standing across from you. You have to at least admit that. And he stares Hogan down, and Hogan admits it, but then as Piper's leaving, and Piper even says to Hogan, like, straighten up. And as he's leaving, Hogan says something about Piper's kilt, and then Piper's, oh, you want to fight, do you? Okay, well, here we go.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Right. And he, like, at the Giant is coming toward him. He's like, sit down, Sprout. And the Giant backs off. Like, it's a fun thing. Well, the NWO responds by attacking and running off the announcers, forcing and keeping Eric Bischoff there hostage, and forcing him to say that Hulk Hogan was better than Piper on the air. And at the end of that episode, or at the end of the episode in mid-November of 96, Piper is arguing in the ring with Eric Bischoff about the fact that they hadn't yet made the match between him and Hogan. And the NWO comes out and attacks Piper, and they reveal that Bischoff has been with them the whole time. He stops being an announcer. He becomes the spokesman for the NWO. The corruption goes all the way to the top. The guy in charge is now a part of the New World Order, with some of the most recognizable wrestlers in the company running roughshod, doing whatever they want, changing the rules as they go, all from the North. Eric Bischoff was acknowledged as being from Minneapolis.
Oh.
It gets better.
Wow. Sherman didn't burn enough.
Right? So following his resignation, Eric Bischoff gives all the wrestlers an ultimatum. Either you join the NWO within the next 30 days, or you be on the losing end of a beatdown forever. Many joined over the next few weeks, and they're all mid-carders. So now you have guys in the NWO that you can beat, and nobody's touching Hogan and all those. So they're driving the story, and you've got guys that can be beaten. After Starrcade in December, they kicked the Giant out because he refused to continue an assault on Roddy Piper. So it's December of 96.
Okay.
All of this detail is to make the following connection. The NWO storyline was a Southern wrestling company's reflection of how the South had come to think of Bill and Hillary Clinton and most of the Democratic Party due to the efforts of Newt Gingrich and the contract with America.
That is a really big head spin RKO dog kind of connection there. Yeah. Okay. So all of that, all of that was a metaphorical, mythologized reflection.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
Yes.
Of the Southern Zeitgeist toward Uncle Billy Clinton and the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Don't forget Hillary. She's from the North.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. She is.
Yep.
So wait, is Miss Elizabeth Hillary in this scenario?
I think Hillary's probably Eric Bischoff.
Okay.
And I don't think it's a 1-to-1, but I do think that Hillary's probably Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan is very much Bill Clinton.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So,
okay. But all of this is through the manipulation of or through the machinations and the messaging of the Republican Party, led at this point strategically led by Newt Gingrich.
By this point, yes, but there's some other players that we need to acknowledge on the way. And so I'll finish by acknowledging a bit there, and then I'll stop us after kind of a big important watershed. So in 1992, George Bush loses his bid for re-election, largely because the Republican vote was splintered by Ross Perot.
Yeah.
See, if you present two really rich people from Texas, the right doesn't know what to do with itself. So in 1992,
see this button right here.
Yeah.
This button right here. This button. This is the one that makes the trains run on time.
I used to love
my favorite Ross Perot joke.
I used to love the one where Dana Carvey, because Ross Perot bought like a half hour of TV time to put out his platform. Now let me tell you, now I won't understand something until I've eaten it, taken it into my intestines, digested it, and passed it through my colon. Like just but yeah, go on.
I'm instituting a national bedtime of 8 p.m. That seems really early, but you're going to be glad you went to bed that time when the national alarm clock goes off at 5:30 the next morning. Yeah, that particular impersonation was, I think, one of Dana Carvey's true
genius moments,
master strokes. Yeah. But I'm stepping on your toes.
Oh, it's fine. I was going to say my absolute favorite, though, of all the impersonations of Ross Perot, it wasn't even a very good one, but the phrase has stuck with me to the point where it's a quote on my classroom wall. And it was Will Durst, San Francisco comedian Will Durst, the first comic I ever saw live once I turned 18. I have the ticket still from my birthday.
Nice.
And he said that Ross Perot he said he's an enchanted tree stump with ears, which I loved. And my parents would drag me to all the Earth Day festivals in the Bay Area. So, and very often Will Durst would do comedy at them, and I would just go and sit and watch that, But my favorite was, he says, Ross Perot, he would talk so weird, and he'd have the weirdest metaphors that wouldn't make any sense, but because of his accent, you'd think they should. So you say, look, you can't put a porcupine up on a bar and expect to make licorice. Which is... it's my favorite quote. It's so good.
Having lived through both of Ross Perot's campaigns.
Yep.
That actually sounds like him.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And I love that phrase. Like, you can't put a porcupine up on a bar and expect to make licorice. I wish that those words existed in Latin, but they don't. So
nice.
So in 1992, Pat Buchanan pulls Bush further to the right and was allowed to make the keynote speech at the Republican convention.
Mm-hmm.
And this speech is the watershed, okay? So he went all out for the culture war, giving a speech called The Culture War in Houston, Texas. He spoke for 30 minutes, and he hit all the boilerplate issues that we've come to recognize. He started them, though, or he named them. He said that radicals and liberals were dressed up as moderates in the, quote, single greatest exhibition of cross-dressing in American history, which links transvestitism with liberal ideology and, by extension, with the Democrats.
Wow. So, he wouldn't get away. So he said that in 92.
Yes.
And in 96, 2000, he wouldn't have gotten away with that. Now, he'd get away with it again.
I know. Isn't that weird?
That's fucked up is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, carry on.
He was referring to the Democratic National Convention, which that year had been held in Madison Square Garden. Now, he's in Houston, Texas. Houston had its own wrestling promotion there. It was a very southern type of wrestling, but it's in Houston, Texas, right? Texas. Very much identified themselves as the South, the place where Kennedy got killed. So, and Madison Square Garden is the crown jewel of the WWF in terms of venues. Madison Square Garden represents everything that there is about New York, to the people in Houston. Here's some
Yeah,
other
well,
thing. Yeah.
it's prototypical Yankee.
Yes.
It's everything. It represents literally everything that is the urbanized
Yes.
Yankee. I mean, during the Civil War, it
Mm-hmm.
was what symbolized everything about what who Yankees were.
Mm-hmm.
To anybody from the South. Never mind the fact that if you're talking about a Michigander or an Iowan or a
Mm-hmm.
Mainer, they're not from that, but that was the stereotype of
Yeah.
the Billy Union
Yeah.
was he was a soft city boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So here's some other things that he said. Pat Buchanan says, quote, "There is a religious war going on in our country for the soul of America." I'm just going to back up for a second. Anytime anybody talks about soul for a country, they're pulling directly on Mussolini. The only time that they're not is if they are in reaction to the hyper right-wing policies, and they're pulling on a moral authority, like in the civil rights movement. But they're still using very Mussolini-y language. It is a culture war, as critical to the kind of nation we will one day be as was the Cold War itself. He also went on to point out that a victory by Bill Clinton and the Democrats would impose on this country, quote, "abortion on demand, a litmus test for the Supreme Court, homosexual rights, discrimination against religious schools, women in combat units. That's change, all right, but it's not the kind of change America wants. It is not the kind of change America needs, and it's not the kind of change that we can tolerate in a nation that we still call God's country."
So, in the middle of all that, the first thing that occurs to me is I want to look at him and go, so Patty boy,
Mm-hmm.
aren't you imposing a litmus test if you require that judges support pro-life
Mm-hmm.
positions just as much as you're accusing the other side of requiring them to be pro-choice?
Oh, there you go, using my
Like,
arguments. Nice job. Nice try. Ha ha ha. See, that's the thing
yeah,
about being that kind of a shitbird, is that you can accuse the other person of what you're doing, and then they can't point out when you do it.
yeah,
Yeah. So, because then you're like, oh, nice tu quoque argument there. It's, yeah.
yeah, but it's not wrong. I
No.
mean, it is to coke away, but it's not. It's factual. Like,
Yeah,
it's
this one
literally what
is. Yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah.
Like the fact that it falls into that category doesn't automatically make it illegitimate. Like,
Oh, no,
you
no. I'm
you
done thinking
you,
already. Sorry. Yeah. You
you
lost.
well, and
That's how it works.
in sort of in mitigation,
Mm-hmm.
in I don't want to say defense, but at least back in 92, that would be the point that they stopped thinking, as opposed to nowadays they never start.
Yeah.
So,
Yup.
wow. All
Yeah.
right. So he gives this barn burner of a Al Qaeda
Mm-hmm.
religious war
Yup.
speech, and then Clinton wins.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly my point, was that this really sets the tone for the losing side.
Okay.
He would also later name abortion, sexual orientation, pop culture, Confederate flag controversies, feminism, school vouchers, environmentalism, elitism. That's one of my favorites. Considering the background of both presidential candidates, people's dislike of his speech itself, all as examples of the polarization that's sweeping the nation because of this culture war. So again, the Bushes, super rich people who helped hide Nazi money, they're the good people. This guy who is an adopted stepson of really, kind of lower middle class folk, who bootstrapped himself up out of Arkansas and on and on and on, that's not one of us. And I'm going to get
No.
into that much more, but it's just kind of interesting that he's like, these people are elites, and it's like, wait a minute, you're standing for the Bushes.
Yeah, and I had a thought, but I got lonely and left. But but yeah, you want to talk about, families. The thought came back.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I think, the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
This is the point at which it actually becomes overt within Republican culture
Mm-hmm.
that any Democratic president is prima facie illegitimate because the presidency should be held by a Republican. Like, at the end of the day,
Right.
if you tighten down on whatever complaints they have about Bill Clinton, whatever
Mm-hmm.
complaints they have about Obama, what it all comes down to in the end
Mm-hmm.
is they're Democrats, and Democrats are inherently politically illegitimate. Period.
I think I'm going to go one step farther than that, though, is that the Republicans had a better finger on the pulse of America's demographic shift, and they realized that the only way to keep power as a growing minority, which I guess a shrinking minority, was to push these culture war buttons and was to create a greater sense of tribalism and ultimately make themselves into an insurgent party because people want to root for the underdog. And again, we go back to lost cause.
Yeah.
And that's going to be real easy for a lot of people to grab onto. So he also railed against publicly funded art, a war on Christmas, and the inferior moral authority of Clinton compared to Bush, which that really makes me happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
The war on Christmas thing.
Sure.
92?
92. Oh, we'll get into talk radio in the next episode.
Honest to God, goes back that far. No shit.
Yeah. So in 1992, when Bush loses his bid for another term and Clinton wins, by nowhere near a majority, I might add, and that also feeds into it, there's a tremendous feeling of betrayal in America, like you were talking about. The losing side doesn't accept its loss and figure out how to win next time. They're too invested in the narrative that there's a war for America's culture. And it's turned into ordinary Americans versus liberalism. And what's interesting there is ordinary Americans is a group of people. Liberalism is an ideology. So they kind of just took the Cold War and reskinned it on some levels. It's an effort to take back the America, the same way the military took back the streets of Los Angeles after the Rodney King riots. And he mentions that. There's no mention of what led to the riots, of course. They now start to go after high school history curriculum. The fact that there's a number of court cases that are working their way through the system that come up at this time is more proof of the evil of liberalism. Like, that's all part of what Pat Buchanan had started and named. And it's not that he started it, it's that he named it. And by naming it, he gave it a power. And he gave people a brand to latch onto. And
he's not the originator of these tropes. He's the codifier of them.
Yes. And the worst part is, the punchline here is that Bill Clinton was hardly a liberal. He was as centrist as they come. He had former Republican advisors. He implemented TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, which replaced the AFDC, which was Aid to Families with Dependent Children. I would point out the first word of each of those, temporary versus aid. Essentially, there were more efforts built into the system for means testing, lifetime limits on being on the programs, and new work requirements. Go ahead.
Okay, hold on. So, but the TANF thing, was that during his first term, or was that?
Yeah, it was his first term.
Really?
Yep.
Because I had always been under the impression, well, I mean, he did do it, but I had thought that the sweeping the middle out from under the Republicans by doing that stuff was strictly a I lost my shirt in 94, so now I'm going to do with the congressional midterm. So now I'm going to do this in 96.
The triangulation happened in 92, and he was lucky that Ross Perot came in and split the Republican vote. Otherwise, he would have lost. Wow. Yeah. He used the Republican program, their reform plan on welfare. He did their program because he twice vetoed it, and then he was like, okay, fine, we'll use it. He was also a big fan of deregulation in the communications industries, as well as the financial industries. Under his presidency, Glass-Steagall took more of a hit in terms of what banks could or couldn't do with depositor monies. He also deregulated the derivative markets. The man was not a liberal, but he was painted as one because he was part of a growing movement toward a greater equality for people on the margins of American society. And here you could say he is more of a liberal. He was far more liberal in his approach than prior presidents, but take a look at who the prior presidents were.
Reagan.
Yeah, when it came to the rights of... Yeah.
For the love of God, man.
A man who would have made Eisenhower just shake his head and go golfing.
Well, in his defense, lots of things made Eisenhower shake his head and go golfing. But
it's very true.
Ike, who finished his term by warning Americans against the military-industrial complex, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And then that then turned into Kennedy, which turned into Johnson, which turned into Nixon. And for God's sake, Nixon.
And Reagan ran to the right of that.
And then Reagan ran to the right of that. And H.W. Bush, started out saying that supply side was voodoo economics, but then it became heresy to say that. So he had to go along with the party line.
Yeah, the parasite took over the host. Under Reagan.
So saying that Bill Clinton was more liberal in many ways than that is like saying that, I can't even think of a suitably ridiculous comparison, but is to say that, well, Genghis Khan had his flaws, but he wasn't Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus.
So he was much more liberal when it came to the rights of gays in the military, the restrictions on women's health, and assault weapons. He was more liberal than those guys. He, however, became the icon, and how he gets there I'll talk about in the next couple episodes. He becomes the icon of liberal elitism and liberalism in the culture war that Buchanan breathed life into by calling it.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm going to leave us for this episode. So,
all right.
Anything you want to glean, or do you want to call it here and leave the cliffhanger?
I think I want to go back to the whole emotional zeitgeist surrounding the 92 election, because as I've mentioned before, I'm a recovering Republican. And 92 was the beginning of my senior year of high school.
Okay.
And so in my journalism class, senior year of high school, the morning of Bill Clinton's inauguration, we watched the inauguration in class. And I was still enough of a larval Republican at that point that I remember watching it and just being furious that smug hick was taking the office that should have gone to my guy.
Right. Your brand lost.
Yeah, and looking back on it now, I want to kind of grab smug, self-important, know-it-all me by the lapels and say that's not how this works, you stupid kid. And I had a whole bunch of life experiences that led me out of that. But I think within the right, I mean, that's like the driving ethos behind people like Tomi Lahren, behind so many of the talking heads on the right.
Let's not bring her into it, because she was born well after that shit. She's glomming onto that, but she's not in any way coming. She's a shill. She's not coming
No,
by
no,
it
yeah.
naturally. Like I am willing to let people who were born and came of age at that time, I'm willing to let them have that as their like Battle of Kosovo moment, or remember the Maine moment for them. But anybody who comes after that, they don't remember the fucking Maine. They don't get to claim it.
Well, I'm not.
You know.
I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, it's now. I'm bringing her up just because
Mm-hmm.
she's the first of the talking heads that occurs to me. But you think of assholes like Tucker Carlson and all these other Fox News motherfuckers.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And Tomi Lahren was raised in it, like and so she's just parroting the stuff that made her
Mm-hmm.
daddy happy when she said it when she was a youngster. But it's this motivating factor is this bitterness over you know we are the only ones who are legitimate. Our side is the only one that can be legitimate, and
Mm-hmm.
and even when we're in power, we are victims.
Right. And that's that
And
insurgency that I was talking about.
yeah, and the thing is, when Buchanan gave that speech, that wasn't yet part of that,
True.
but that became part of it
Mm-hmm.
when Wild Bill took the White House.
Mm-hmm.
And then it crystallized and like metastasized into something even more angry and uglier when Obama took the White House.
Oh, hugely.
When I was a teenager, the joke that always used to go around was, liberals are never able to have any fun. Liberals can never be happy. Now, I gotta say, conservatives are never happy. They're always furious. Like,
Rage has become their ideology.
yeah, and that's all there is to it. And I think that's the biggest takeaway I have here is like hearing those words from Buchanan's speech is like, oh my God, this is when it fucking started.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
that's what I have right
Cool.
now.
Well, next time we'll actually get into the Clinton presidency. And either next episode or the following, I'll bring it back around to wrestling because the wrestling kind of serves as bookends for it.
All right.
So, okay. So where can we find you on the social media?
On the social media, I am at EH Blaylock on the Twitter. And I'm at Mr. Blaylock on the Instagram. How about you?
I am at Duh Harmony on both the Twitter and the Instagram. And you can also find me every Friday night in May. Actually, I don't know if this is going to release in May, but every Friday night in May, you can find me at twitch.tv/capital puns. But starting in June, we're switching to a Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. twitch.tv/capital puns. Every Sunday night, though, you can find me at 8:30 at twitch.tv/calling it in the ring, where we talk a lot about wrestling. So those are the places you can find me. And you can also find us at where?
Geek History Time
There you
at Geek History Time on the Twitter.
Yeah. So for Geek History of Time, I'm Damian Harmony.
And I'm Ed Blaylock. And until next time, keep rolling 20s.